10 points of fat loss, okay? 1 pound per day. They've lost 10 pounds in 10 days. You know why? Because they're doing it correctly. That's why. Fat loss versus weight loss. Because I don't believe in weight loss. I believe in fat loss. See, you could be 100 kilos and you could be lean, ripped, and muscular and healthy, or you could be 100 kilos and you could be unhealthy and you could be fat and blubbery and have no muscle tissue and not be able to walk to the store, right? So here's my question. Fat loss or weight loss? Well, we know fat loss is healthy. Weight loss is not healthy. So can you be fat or overweight and be healthy? No, you can't. One, is it good on your joints? No. How about your spine? No. How about your poor heart and your lungs? But think about the weight on your joints, on your feet, your ankles, the spreading of your feet, your spine, the squishing of your discs, the compression of your heart and your organs and your lungs, and your inability to breathe deeply. Then what they do, because their colon is typically stopped up, and in between the rib muscles expands. So instead of your ribs being like this, they get like this. And you've ever noticed that guys walk around like this? Have you guys ever noticed those guys? They're doing that because they're huffing their chest because they can't breathe with their diaphragm. Did you know that? It's interesting, isn't it? They can't breathe here, so they breathe here. So they get this expanded rib cage. They get that barrel chest look, right? It's not muscular. Problem with that is that you're not getting 60% extra volume of your oxygen, of your lungs, of your oxygen. So you're not getting the oxygen intake, which is making you have less energy, which is making you less healthy. Oxygen, they say that you cannot, if you have oxygen, you will not have certain problems in life. There's certain issues in illnesses and things like that. Oxygenation heals everything, right? So if you're not getting 60% of your volume of your lungs, you're not getting air transfer. You're not as healthy as you could be. You're then expanding your rib cage. You're getting barrel chested. You're keeping your arms out like this, and it doesn't need to be. Can they move their torso when they run and walk? No, they cannot, because their constipation of their colon keeps them from moving their central core, right? And then all the compression of everything and all that extra weight. Now think about this. I'm 6'4", so a little bit less, about 6 centimeters less than 2 meters tall, right? That's about right. And so, and then I weigh about 100 kilos. Imagine if I added an extra 100 kilos on my back and I could walk around with it. How hard would that be on my body? That is brutal, isn't it? What if I carried you around on my back? Would you feel sorry for me? You'd be like, Josh, I'm so sorry that you still have to carry me. You're carrying me to the grocery store. You're carrying me in your car. You're carrying me around the house. Jeez, you get out of the bathtub, you got to carry me. That's how much weight they're carrying. That's a lot of weight, huh? Now, somebody that weighs 285 pounds or let's just say 300 pounds, 150 kilos, 150 kilo person that's maybe a foot shorter than me, or even my height. Think about that extra weight on them and the compression of that, the lack of air, lack of oxygen. And then think about like the knees and how the knees bend in and all those problems, right? And then you know what they'll tell you, how much they think they should weigh? They're always off. When somebody tells me I need to lose 5 kilos, I know they probably need to lose 10 kilos. When they tell me they need to lose 50 kilos, they probably need to lose 75 kilos. So when somebody tells me that I should end up being 70 kilos and I said, no, you should probably be closer to 50 kilos. See, because they don't even know anymore of what they should really, or what they can really look like. So what I'm talking about is fat lost for health, right? Not for vanity. Although you will be able to help people through vanity, won't you? Most people are very vain, so it's easy for us to help them through their vanity. Would you like to lose some extra weight? Yeah, but I've tried every diet. Well, I'm not talking about a diet right now. Let's go through some reasons why people are fat, and then I hope this educates you on why or how you can help people lose body fat, or maybe you can help yourself or your spouse or your children. Did you know that we're over 70% obese, over 70% obese in the United States? Our children are so fat. This whole generation. Now, if you guys haven't been over here to the United States, it is something to behold when you see these kids. I went up to visit a friend, and she was staying in a motel. And so my son and I went up there. We went to the pool. And so we're skinny, and we get in the pool, and in comes about 10 or 14 teenagers. Did you know there was only one skinny one out of 14? The rest of them had legs this big around. They're teenagers. What are they going to be when they're adults? When we were teenagers, how fat were we? There wasn't any fat kids in school at that time. There wasn't. Go watch the movies in the 70s. They're all tiny. The guys were skinny. The girls were skinny. Everybody's skinny. In the 80s, they were all skinny. There was 2 fat kids in my whole high school. My whole school. 2. That's it. And they weren't fat compared to these kids. I mean, they were husky. You know, that was husky. It's 70% obese, not overweight, obese. Okay, so let's go through some stuff. Toxic or malnutrition? There's both. Fat is both. What causes fat is both. Toxic, malnutrition. We have to fix both to overcome this. So let's go through it. Let's start with the mouth. Things that go in the mouth. So 1, can you be fat and be healthy? No. 2, well, let's go. A, can you be fat and be healthy? The answer is no. B, toxic and or malnutrition. You'll find it. When you fix both, you will find it. We're going to fix both today. We're going to fix toxicities and we're going to fix malnutrition today. Are you ready? Take notes. 2, mouth. A, things that go in it. Let's go through the things that go in it. Food, bad foods. Bad foods are going to be anything processed. Okay. Now, I'm also going to throw in a little bit of my own warped sense of diet. And I'm going to do that because if you really want to hit this gangbusters running and steamroller in this thing, maybe you could make a 6-month adjustment of really refining your diet. And then you could teeter back to some things that you like that I would disagree with. Okay. But maybe in 6 months, you won't crave those anymore. Right. But I'll give you reasons why I wouldn't delve into toxic zones. So let's go food first, because we have food, drugs, vitamins, and preservatives. And those four categories. So let's go food first. Let's list some foods. So if you're going to eat grains, don't eat processed grains. So it can't be white rice or white flour or white anything, white sugar. It has to be whole grain brown rice. And I would recommend multigrain. If it's going to be any other grain, it's going to be a whole staff grain, meaning it's got everything on it, unrefined. Whether it's ground or unground, mattereth not. However, it needs to be unrefined, unprocessed, unbleached, unbrominated, everything, where you could take that grain and throw it into the dirt and it will sprout up into something that you can eat. Are we clear? Good. Sugar, sweeteners, anything processed, anything white of color is not natural. Even snowberries are not white. Even snowberries, when you dry them, are brown. So real cane sugar has all the molasses, calcium, iron. Did you know that 1 tablespoon of molasses has 20% of the iron and 20% of the calcium that you need per day? And most people are lacking iron and calcium, aren't they? But real cane sugar has that. Now, where do they get molasses? They get it from the cane sugar. They boil it down. They give you the white processed garbage over here that's a thief when it comes into your body, because it has to steal calcium and iron and all these other things, has no enzymes, and it has to steal to be processed. So it's a thief. You should shoot thieves. And so when you have a thief like that, you don't want to invite him in, right? So what we want to do is we want to have the unprocessed sort. So it'd just be like dehydrated cane juice, right? That would be brown. Or if it's unrefined beet sugar, would be red. If it's unrefined stevia sugar or sweetener, it would be green. If it's honey and it's raw, it's translucent for about 2 weeks, and then it is a creamy white, not creamed honey. It's real raw honey that still has all the propolis and all the different parts in it, and it has all the things that the queen eats. That is really raw honey. That has nutrients in it galore, and it won't sugar. If it's been heated, it means they've killed the enzymes. It's amber and it will sugar. And then they put it in a gallon jug and it has a tiny little thing on it. And they say, oh, just heat it up. Well, you're heating it up. That's fine. It's not refined. Don't get me wrong. It's still better than the other ones. It's still been heated. And anything heated past like 111, 113 degrees starts killing enzymes. And you don't want that. You need your enzymes. You know that they've linked a lot of fat and obesity to one enzyme. Just one, missing one enzyme. But remember, today, we're going to tell you about all the reasons and everything you need to know to get rid of the fat and to stop the fat from storing and to metabolize the fat and to have the energy from fat. So the other foods is hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil. You're not going to want, though I'm going to go into another reason on that in a minute. Hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil, food coloring, any food coloring that's unnatural. Now, if it's just carrot juice and they're using that, or chlorophyll to color it green, or beet juice to color it red, that's okay. We can deal with that, right? Yellow could be some other one, or if it's citrus or it's some natural flavors. Now, don't believe natural flavor. If they put the word natural in it, that is not a safety net. That is not, we cannot presume that that is correct anymore, because the evils of conspiring men these days, and they are conspiring. No MSG, no processed sugars, no processed grains, no processed anything. If it's especially corn, soy, or wheat, it has to be organic. It has to be, because they've really isolated those into GMOs and over pesticides. So you have to be very, very careful. If you like tofu, and I'll be, oh, I hate tofu. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. I'm not going to get into your situation. But if you like tofu, it has to be organic, okay? If you like corn, it has to be organic. If you like wheat. So now we go to, so we're in hydrogenated oil, MSG, food coloring, processed sugars, processed any of that kind of stuff. Now, why wouldn't I eat meat? Well, but did you know that they take the meat? Not only is most meat is produced with hormones and steroids and all kinds of things, and they drive all kinds of garbage into them, and they have all kinds of stuff that they inject them with, and those are the toxic part, not the malnutrition part. It's the toxic part. And so in the toxic part of that, they inject the meat with food coloring and sometimes other chemicals to cover up diseases the animal had, and they give it a shot to drop all of its tumors before they send it to market. And the other thing that they do is they, besides the steroids, they inject it with MSG before it's sliced up into your hamburgers and your steaks and that kind of stuff. So there's your MSG, there's your food coloring. And the fats are sticky fats, and I'm not interested in it. And the fats are typically, they're beta fats and they're toxic. and that would be a cow, let alone a pig or a swine, which would be much more horrible. Also, I wouldn't eat any shrimp or shellfish just because they're the toxic keepers of the ocean. They are the cleaning mechanism. So are pigs. Pigs are cleaners. And so I wouldn't eat any animal eating birds, things like that. And I wouldn't eat anything that would be unnaturally preserved. Those are things that are going to be the toxic sorts that we're talking about, not the malnourishment sort. Now let's go to another part. Now, I'm not doing this to convert you to any sort of vegetarianism. I'm telling you this for a cautionary toxicity, and that you eat it in moderation or sparingly in smaller amounts and cleaner meats, organic, clean meats. If it's going to be fish, make sure it's not a shellfish. It's got to have scales and fins. Deep water, clean water is best. If you guys are in Australia, New Zealand, oh my gosh, your water's so clean. Deep water, clean salmon, things like that, so much cleaner. If it's going to be an animal, make sure it's a clean animal to eat and it's organic, range fed, on its proper diet that it would eat if you left it alone in a forest, okay? And then eat smaller amounts, like it's an accent to the meal, not the basis of the meal. If you're craving proteins, try another source. Garbanzo beans are #1 in calcium. Black beans are #1 in iron. If you're needing iron or calcium, you can do that kind of stuff, okay? So those are good ones to eat. Refried beans are very high in protein, and if you like Spanish food, it's delicious. Just make it without pork fat and make it with maybe organic extra virgin olive oil instead of the pork fat, and it will taste fantastic, and you'll have refried beans that are delicious. Or you can make black beans and refry them, or you can make garbanzo beans, you can make hummus. Those are fantastic, and they're healthy, and you'll get lots of protein, great assimilation, and you'll get the nutrients you need. Okay, so that's food. Oh yeah, one more thing, dairy. If you're gonna have dairy, if you don't like soy milk, you can have almond milk. You can have any kind of meat. You can have spelt milk. You can have coconut milk. You can have all kinds of milk. If you don't like those and you truly want animal milk, you could have goat milk or sheep milk, which would be much healthier than cow milk or yak milk. So if you get cow milk or goat milk or sheep milk, make sure you get steroid hormone free, range fed, healthy, and non-homogenized. Homogenization breaks up the xanthan oxidase, XO factor. Xanthan oxidase is an enzyme, breaks that up, makes it go through cell walls, causes scar tissue and arteries, problems like that. Non-homogenized milk, much healthier. And then if you are a milk drinker, raw milk or something like that, as long as it's healthier, that's much better. However, if it's less than 2% fat of the milk, you will not be able to assimilate it for the same reason we do water oil-based nutrients in our in my patented process. Less than 2% of milk, you will not assimilate it because you will not have enough of the fat vitamins to go with the water-based vitamins. Therefore, you have to eat whole milk or the butter if you're going to be a dairy drinker, okay? That's just the way it is because it has to have its nutrients. Now, sheep and goat is notoriously less fattening, and their assimilation of that is better because you'll get less fat and you'll still assimilate it much better. Homogenization is one of the worst parts of it, especially because they're using chemical surfactants in there, and you don't want those as well. You don't want the hormones, you don't want any of those kind of problems, you don't want the pus, you don't want the blood. So if you're going to do that, do it that way. If you're going to have cheese, raw cheese is better, and goat cheese, sheep cheese, and the European cheeses typically are a lot better. Now, if you get some stuff from New Zealand, more than likely you're getting fantastic stuff, okay? And then it's going to have its enzyme, it's going to have all the nutrient stuff like that. If you're going to cook it on a pizza, you don't need to get it raw because it's going to be cooked, right? But still get it so it's unrefined, unprocessed, unsteroided, unhormoned, all that kind of stuff. Just make good cautious, then it will not cause. Now, if you have mucus and you have that, well, I'd recommend you go off the dairy for 30 days to see if you have an allergy to it. If you have the black circles under your eyes, you very well could have an allergy to dairy. That's one of the symptoms. That's one of the signs that tells you that you have a dairy allergy, is the black little half rings underneath your eyes. That could also mean parasites. Parasites is another thing that will give you black rings under your eyes. Okay, so that's food. Let's go to drugs. Drugs, medications, any of those kind of things can be things that go into your mouth that cause toxicities. The drugs or medications, a lot of times when people are utilizing those fat cells that those have been entrapped with, they'll smell, taste those medications, and sometimes feel those medications. Medications are typically made by chemicals. They're like synthetic vitamins, but worse. They're made chemicals. Your body doesn't process them correctly. And a lot of times they try to bypass your liver and spleen so they don't get filtered through the liver and spleen. Before they go into the circulation system, they've found ways to bypass that. You don't want to bypass the liver and spleen. That's your filter. That's it saying, wait, this isn't right. We can't take this in. This is not acceptable. This is toxic to us. If it comes with a list of side effects, if you did a cleanse and you got on the greens and the colon formula correctly, you'd get rid of like 90% of your eczema in 30 days. But, you know, that's okay. So you look at something, make sure it doesn't have a worse side effect than it could possibly help you. Okay, vitamins, synthetic vitamins, synthetic vitamin C can cause arteriosclerosis and artery problems and congestion and all kinds of cardiovascular disease and issues. Vitamin E, synthetic vitamin E, can cause vitamin deficiencies. It will actually deplete you of other vitamins. And so all these different, like vitamin Bs are made from coal tar and petroleum. Vitamin C is typically made through an acetone with corn syrup, and they'll ferment it. And these are not real vitamins. These are synthetic vitamins. They're mere images of vitamins. You could have a picture of me in your house, but it's not going to help you clean the garage. It's not going to be as beneficial. Having me there to work is much better than having a picture of somebody. Vitamin C synthetic, all the synthetic vitamins, B vitamins that are coal tar, petroleum, turpentine, some have all kinds of bad toxicities. Your body sees them as a toxin. It will store them as a beta fat cell, just like some of the medications and drugs. Preservatives, anti-preservatives, a lot of times we're plastic wrapping our food and it comes into our body and it's plastic wrapped and it comes out the same way it went in. And you don't want to have preservatives that are doing things to your food that are making it so it stays on the shelf, that is the same thing that makes it so you can't assimilate any nutrients from it. Does that make sense? So that's what goes in your mouth. Now let's talk about the B category of number 2 is digest or not to digest. Enzymes, breakdown, synthetics. If you're going to digest something, you need enzymes. You have to have it in a whole food state to have those enzymes. You can't have it processed. If you don't have the enzymes, you don't get to break it down and get the nutrients from it. If you don't break it down, it can be stored as waste material. If you don't break it down, why are you eating it? If you can't assimilate nutrients from it, let me ask you a question. Are you living to eat or are you eating to live? Food is delicious, but are you addicted to food as a habit, as a comforting element, so that, hey, I feel loved, so I eat food? Is that the pattern? Or are you eating nutrition because you say, I love my body, I love me, and I want to give it the greatest amount of nutrition? When you feed your children, are you feeding them so they're full, so they'll be quiet and they'll go to sleep? Or are you feeding them because you love them and you want them to grow up to be the smartest, strongest, fastest, best children in the world? Well, you need to treat yourself the same. How do you feed your dog? Do you feed your dog so it's going to live a long life, or do you feed your dog so it shuts up and it dies in 7 years? It's the same question. What do you do? So when you look at, if it's synthetic, it's not going to have any of the enzymes attached to it. And so you're not going to have that capability. Number 3, things we need to metabolize fat as energy. What do we need to metabolize body fat as energy? What is it that we need to digest or to metabolize body fat as energy? We know we can get it to store because we all have body fat stored, right? Nobody's going, I need to store more body fat. How do I do that? Do you know anybody that's doing that? Not very many. 1, you need water. If you are not hydrated, I'm going to talk about it like it's a dollar bill. So a fat molecule, that you get to utilize as energy, which energy is your energy that you get to use it for that day, right? You want energy. It's going to convert. So what your body did is it converted it. So it took it this big and it shrunk it. How did it shrink wrap it? It took water out of it. So what you did was you took $20 bills and you shrunk 5 $20 bills into one $100 bill. That's a fat cell. Does that make sense? How do you get from the $100 bill to the 20 so that you can spend it again as energy? You have to add water to it. So when you add water to it, you can now spend it as energy. Does that make sense? Is that an easy to understand way of doing it? That's why you need water. The other thing that water helps, not only it goes to your brain, your heart, but it also gets your colon working very well. And if you don't drink enough water, you won't work your colon very well, because your colon is the first place your body goes to retrieve water when it's dehydrated, and it steals it from your colon and it takes it to your heart and your brain. Well, now you're thinking like crap, aren't you? Drink more water, stop thinking like crap, and make sure you're irrigating your colon. Your heart has plenty of blood to pump, you're not dehydrated, and your brain has plenty of liquid, and you're thinking well, and you're metabolizing that stored body fat for energy. There's a few other things you're going to need to metabolize that stored body fat as energy. Let's go through it. Vitamin Bs. You're going to need B1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 to utilize stored body fat for energy. There's a cross section in there in B6 that you're going to need all 6 forms of B6, because those produce enzymes, 60 different enzymes, and increase your hydrochloric acid production so you can break down your food so that you can assimilate it so it won't be stored as body fat or go through the body as waste material. So those 6 B6s are imperative so that you can produce those 60 enzymes, so that, because we talked about enzymes, didn't we, in breaking down the food for metabolism so that we get the energy from it, because that's why you're eating it. So that's your B vitamins. Your C vitamin, you need that to metabolize stored body fat for energy. Now, you also need it for iron. So if you're anemic, maybe you're not getting your C. You also need it for your serotonin, so you feel good. If you get fake vitamin C, which would be like ascorbic acid, which is just the outer ring around the vitamin C, without the vitamin P, K, J, bioflavones, rutin, there's like 9 other elements in the vitamin C that you need to metabolize, to have the vitamin C, full spectrum vitamin C. It takes 1/10 of real vitamin C to be utilized so that you can utilize the stored body fat for energy, or 10 times the amount of the fake vitamin C still won't do as good a job. You can't take a chance on that. You have to have real vitamin C. So a lot of people are not getting their iron, or not producing their serotonin, or not metabolizing their body fat for something so simple as either not having real whole food vitamin C, or maybe they're not getting all their B6s or their B13 or 12 or 11 or all 1 through 3. They're not getting their proper vitamins. Fake takes 10 times as much and it's still not as good. Cortisol hormone. Anybody ever heard of cortisol? I have a cortisol hormone problem. That's why I'm storing excess body fat. And people have come up with saying, oh, you need to shut off the cortisol hormone so it doesn't store body fat anymore. Can you imagine what would happen if they had an ability to shut off your cortisol hormone? Think about this. Your brain is mostly fat, and they want to shut off a hormone from storing fat. You need fat. You need visceral fat. You need some body fat. You need fat around some of your organs. You need some fat. That's what you eat in between meals, is fat, okay? Blood sugar is not what we want to use. We want to use body fat, right? So that's that variable amount by how much effort you're putting forth is how much body fat they're going to take in your metabolism in that time period in between foods, in between meals. When you do that, that's a dangerous thing, is to say, I just want to shut off cortisol. No, let's get the cortisol hormone to be thinking right again. Let's get the cortisol hormone to be smart. Why is a cortisol hormone making abnormal production to store abnormal high amounts of body fat? Why is that? Why is it doing it? Have you thought about it? I hope you do now. Think about it. Why would it do it? Something's wrong. See, the body's brilliant. Don't try to force the body to do something you think. Get the body to do what it's already built to do correctly. Cortisol's got a purpose. You know why the cortisol hormone gets all out of whack? Mineral deficiency. Mineral deficiency. Mineral imbalances. Remember Linus Pauling, two-time Nobel Prize winner? He said, you can trace every ailment, every sickness, and every disease to a vitamin and mineral deficiency. Cortisol hormone, mineral deficiency or mineral imbalances, meaning too high of maybe inorganic minerals and not enough good minerals from foods. How do we do that? Mineral balance. We need a full spectrum of minerals. There's 106 minerals this body needs, 106. Alpha fat cells and beta fat cells, or what other people call beta fat cells, could be brown fat cells, okay? Why is it brown? Ooh, because it's a beta fat cell, and a beta fat cell is a toxin. It's a toxin, that's the garbage part of it, surrounded by a lipid, the fat. And that is what gives it the brown, because it's toxic. When you have alpha fat cells, those are those fat cells that transition very easily in between meals. Most people do not have those or are not utilizing those. Lack of water, lack of nutrients, and they're not metabolizing those stored body fat. Most people are storing too much body fat for two reasons, either cortisol, mineral imbalance, or diet. They're storing too many beta fat cells because they're eating bad foods, inorganic materials, synthetics, and things that are toxic to the body. And those things get stored as beta fat cells. Now we're on beta fat cells. And did you know what happens when most people start assimilating beta fat cells for the first time in a long time? You know what they start smelling and tasting? All the things I just listed. It's fascinating. What you will find, if you can burn up a beta fat cell as energy, what you will find is you will smell, taste, and feel that which caused you to get that fat cell. McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, MSG, soda pops. Soda pop's another no-no on the food list. Okay. The high fructose corn syrups, they'll taste them, they'll smell them, they'll feel them. They'll also taste and smell and feel medications. Some people are like, oh man, I just got sick. I just tasted, oh, it was terrible. Or the synthetic vitamins they were taking, the synthetic vitamins and inorganic minerals, they'll taste them. The same taste they get and the same orange color that they urinate, they'll taste them. So it's a fascinating thing. So a beta fat cell is stored with 1/5 the amount of blood flow to it. Why? Because the body is afraid of it. So the body pushes that, sends that beta fat cell, that toxin surrounded by a fat cell, because the body's protecting itself. So it says, you're not getting rid of this through your colon, because most people are stopped up in their colon. Nothing moves very well. They got the ribs expanded. They're walking funny. They're not healthy, and they don't have oxygenation. The body just says, we have to protect this life. So we're going to send that beta fat cell to the nether regions, to the farthest away spots, the back of your arm, maybe your tummy, maybe your buttocks, maybe your legs, far away, lack of blood flow. Keep it away from me. It's toxic. I don't want it. But you want it off your system. You want it out of here, right? You want to get rid of it. So how do we do it, right? How do we get rid of that? Because if you went and took that beta fat cell, it has the toxin still. See, your body already stored it for a reason. It stored it because you could not get rid of the toxin. You're eating too much toxins and not getting rid of the toxins fast enough. So by that, because you cannot get rid of the toxins fast enough, the body stored it. So that's beta fat cell. And that's the fat that even when athletes work out for 8 to 12 hours a day, they still cannot metabolize it because the body doesn't let them, because the colon's still not working. The colon is not allowing them to move out toxins. If the colon does not move out well enough, the liver and spleen cannot filter the blood and dump it out into the colon because there's no place to put it. Then the blood cannot dump out its putrescence into the liver and spleen because there's no place to put it. So what does it do? It has to place it somewhere selectively as a beta fat cell. As soon as you start moving the colon very well, properly, and drinking enough water, then the colon will move. Then the liver and spleen will dump out putrescence into the colon. Then the blood will filter through there. And then you will have an open ability to move things out. Now, what's the answer? What's the fat answer? The fat answer is why we're here. We want to move fat off of our bodies permanently. You cannot change the amount of fat cells, but we can make the fat cells smaller and less of them, right? We can make them so they're empty. So they're just a hollow little shell. That's a good one, right? You ever seen one of those people that's like 6%, 9%, 11% body fat, and you're like, geez, how do they do that? Eat clean. Eat clean. So the fat answer is the Fire Kit. The Fire Kit is probably one of our best-selling products. The original Fire was 300 capsules of Fire, 2 bottles of greens, and minimum 2 bottles of the colon formula. It's still a minimum of 2 bottles of the colon formula, even though the colon formula is stronger than it was before by probably a third. The greens is so much stronger, you're down to 1 bottle of the greens. Now you might need 2 bottles for a month or so. And then you have the Fire. The Fire went from 300 capsules per month. Then it went down to 150 capsules per month. Then it went down to 90 capsules per month. No change in the ingredients, so you know. It was just tight changes in the formulation. It's now down to 30 capsules per month, 1 pill a day. You take it before you even get out of bed because it's going to give you 12 to 14 hours of energy. 12 to 14 hours of energy. How does it do that? It's impossible to do that from blood sugar. You have to do it from fat. You have to utilize your fat as energy. You like that, right? That's what we're looking for. That's metabolism. We're unlocking this. So now that we're metabolizing beta fat cells, those toxins, they have to go through the colon. That's why you need to get your colon working. Now, most people that are very overweight are probably going to need 4 or 5 bottles of the colon formula the first few months until they get enough fecal matter out of their bodies. They're also going to have to drink a 1/2 ounce or 1 ounce per pound of body weight per day. That's 1 gallon to 2 gallons of water. Needs to be clean water. Clean water. Only H2O, no other ingredients. And then the Fire can metabolize that stored body fat for energy. The toxin can go down to the bowels. The body can then metabolize the fat and give you 12 to 14 hours of energy. That's why you have to take it before you even get out of bed. An hour later, you're going to take 1 scoop of the greens, which is going to give you all your mineral balance, 106 minerals. It's going to give you all your B vitamins that we talked about, including your 6 B6s. And so you produce all 60 enzymes. Hydrochloric acid goes up. You start digesting food better. Then you will have a balance of all the 106 minerals. So your cortisol production, you'll stop storing body fat so much. So you're going to stop storing the body fat. You're going to start metabolizing it. And then you are going to start drinking more water. Probably double, triple, quadruple the amount of water you're drinking right now. When I say water, I'm not saying drinking milk, juice. I'm not saying drinking alcohol, beer. I'm not talking about soda pop. No, 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 no. I'm talking about water. Water. That's it. It's just water. Okay? Now, you could drink other things, but you still have to drink your gallon or 2 gallons, your 4 to 8 liters of water per day. Okay? Try it. See how much you can get. Then you're going to have your greens are going to cover that. Then you're going to have the Fire, and then you're going to have the colon. You take the colon at nighttime, minimum of 6. Most people are going to need more than 6. Okay, so be prepared for that. If that's the case, buy a couple extra bottles for the first couple months. And then as you got 6, and then the next day take 7, then the next day take 8, then the next day take 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever, until you get a Lomi soft serve ice cream. That's a proper bowel movement. You flush the toilet. When the water agitates, the fecal matter disperses. That's a proper bowel movement. I hope we understand each other. Next thing is diet. It is up to you to fix your diet. You owe it to you to love you and eat better. Eat to live, don't live to eat. No more ice cream, no more cakes, cookies, any of that kind of processed foods, processed anything. If you want, go get some Almond Dream ice cream. It's delicious. Some Rice Dream ice cream. There's coconut ice cream. Those are better with healthier sugars. Those are healthier. Make healthier desserts, but only eat dessert one time per week, okay? And only the size of your stomach is only 3 of your own fists. That's including your drink. When you moderate your amounts of food intake and then you cut out all the bad foods we've talked about, add more vegetables and fruits, nutrition. I want you to eat for nutrition. If you make lasagna, make it so you get the most amount of vegetables and nutrients possible. Try that. Try that for your nutrients. And give the most you can with it still tasting good for your kids. I hope that helps. Then the next thing to do, the last thing, is exercise. Do something. Do something for an hour a day. I don't care if you kiss your wife for an hour a day. In fact, I do care. I think you should. Do kiss your wife for an hour a day. Do go and hold hands and walk with her around the block. And when you guys start getting, so you're walking faster, start running and then start running around the block. Maybe chase her around the block. Go dancing, but do something. Go swimming, go exercise. Exercise is hard for people to get in there and do that kind of thing at first. So do something fun. Dancing's fun. Walk around the block, romance each other, hold hands. Do the things that made you fall in love in the first place. 1, it will help your relationship. 2, you'll do it as a team and you'll keep each other stronger. 3, when you guys are in the house and you're both eating this way and you're both on the fat loss fire kit, you're both going to do better together. And you guys could lose a pound of fat per day sometimes. Those are the 10 things to do for fat loss.